What is the motivating force behind radical Islamic ideology? Take a look at this clip over here with Gad Saad. He kind of goes through the ideology, the worldview in which radical Islam operates on. So we'll watch this clip together and then talk about it. But first, hit that subscribe button over there in the corner. We'd love to stay in touch. Check this out.
Golda Meir, who was the prime minister of Israel, I think maybe the fourth from maybe 1969 to 73 or something around that. I might get the numbers wrong. She was the first female prime minister. Has a couple of quotes that really capture the dilemma in that region. One thing she said is that if the Palestinians learn to love their children as much as they hate ours or something like that, then would have peace. Maybe I botched it a bit. And the second one is that if we put down our arms, there would be a genocide. If they put down their arms, there would be peace. It has nothing to do with piece of land. It has nothing to do with contested territories. Let me break it down for you. I recently discussed this on the Joe Rogan show, but it's worth repeating here for those of you who don't watch Joe Rogan. Islam has the concept, it's a duality concept. The world is divided into two. There is Dar al-Islam and Dar al-Harb. Dar al-Islam means the house of Islam. Dar al-Harb, Harb in Arabic means the house of war. So the entire world is broken up into either blue or red. House of Islam or house of war. What does that mean? Any land that Islam conquers and then loses is forevermore canonically under the house of Islam. Any land that has not yet ever been colonized and conquered by Islam is in the house of war. It is to be conquered. That's why the end result is that Islam is peaceful, because it seeks peace through the unification of the entire world under the unifying flag of Allah. Okay? Now, in the Middle East, every single society that had existed prior to Islam has been eradicated, right? In Egypt, Coptic Christians were the majority. Now they constitute 10% of Egypt, okay? In Syria, there was huge Christians. Lebanon used to be a predominantly Christian country. Within my lifetime and yours, Lebanon went from being predominantly Christian to now being majority Muslim. Within our lifetime, not 500 years. What happened to the Iraqi Christians? Persia had a culture before Islam. Now it's become Islamic. So no ideology has conquered and colonized as much as Islam has. So if you're worried about the colonization of Zionism, then by any stretch of the imagination, if you're going to be logical, then you have to be worried and upset about the colonization of 56 countries that were once not Islamic, and in many cases they became Islamized through brute force. That's why there is the sword of Islam. It doesn't capture that we're going to cut bananas together. It captures that I put the sword to your neck, and when I conquer you, I give you choices, 3 choices. Either convert or die or live as a dhimmi. Dhimmi means as a not even second-class citizen. You're a third-class citizen, right? So, for example, Jews and Christians have often been tolerated under Islamic law. So, for example, you hear about the golden period of Andalusia, right, which is in current Spain. All that means is that you are tolerated until you're not, right? But you're always walking a precarious high wire, right? On any given moment, you better put on your really fast running shoes and run really fast, because your head's going to be detached. So we lived very nicely in Lebanon until we didn't, right? And that's the history of the entire region. Now, Jews have existed in the Middle East for thousands of years before the word Islam ever came to be. So if we're going to use historical precedents, it's a game that the enemies of Judaism are going to lose. But here's what I propose. How about you teach your children that there could be people who live next to you. We can debate where we draw the line, but there is a group of people that have thousands of years of provenance to that land. By the way, Palestine, when you said Palestinians until recently, it referred to the indigenous Jews of that area called Palestine. Palestine, as you hear it today, is a concoction from the 1960s. There is no Palestinian people. They're Jordanian, they're Egyptian, right? There is no such thing as Palestine, other than it's a territory that has been mandated by different groups. A while back by the Ottomans, more recently British mandate, and so on. So imagine if we can teach the children of our neighbors that Jews have a right to exist. We can be neighbors. Let's love each other. It's perfectly natural for us to coexist. Do you think that Israel is actually interested in committing a genocide? Because if they wanted to commit a genocide, well, let's think it through. It would take well less than the time that I've been on this show today for every single Palestinian to be eradicated given Israel's might. Is that true? Is that a true statement? It is.
Sure.
Okay. Yet they haven't done. As a matter of fact, the Palestinian population has increased fivefold. So Jews are really shit at the genocidal game because population increased fivefold, right? When the Nazis were trying to exterminate the Jews, they were trying to get rid of them. They got rid of 6 million. So the reality is that Palestinians are taught that the highest value, to speak earlier about what we were talking about, what's your value, what's driving you in the morning. There is no greater goal than to liberate all of, hence, free Palestine from the river to the sea, from the Jordanian River to the Mediterranean Sea, free of Jews. I grew up in that world. I speak to those people. I mean, now it's harder for me to speak to them in Arabic because they recognize me. But 25 years ago, when I wasn't as known and I could mix amongst the folks who speak Arabic, it was very clear. Jews are a cancer in that region, and we must get rid of them as we have all other societies.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth to what he's saying over here. I believe the quote that he's talking about with Golda Meir is that peace will come in Israel when the Arabs love their children more than they hate us. There's a lot of truth to that. There's many people over there are being raised in a culture where the best, most glorified lifestyle is killing oneself in the name of their religion, is killing as many Jews as possible. We see from October 7th as just a microcosm of what was going through the minds of many of the killers that took place that day, where the one young boy calls up his parents and is so proud of himself and wants both of his parents, his mother, I have just killed 10 Jews with my bare hands, put dad on, like that was this sort of like achievement, that it was something that was like a life realized goal had been achieved. I want to tell my parents all about it, and they'll be so proud of me for that. That's something that first of all, you can't make peace with that. That's just not part of any sort of peace agreement that will be real. And the other quote that he brought from Golda Meir, which rings eminently true. I mean, if Israel were to put down their weapons, there would be a genocide. They would be killed by the Arab population. But if the Arab population put down their weapons, there would be peace in the region. Israel has no interest in killing anybody, hurting anybody. It's acting in a mode of self-defense. That is really what it boils down to at the end of the day. You'll never find an IDF soldier call their parents and say, I've killed so many Arabs today and it was the best thing, and put dad on, put mom on, whatever it is. That is not where any of this is coming from. And real peace and real discussions of peace agreements and whatnot, you have to have a peace partner to do that with. And with Hamas, that's not an option. Even with the Palestinian Authority in the so-called West Bank is still doing pay for slay, meaning that they will still compensate families that had people from their area go and commit terrorist activities in Israel. They will compensate the families with funding, with reparations for the work that they've done. How can you have a peace partner in that. This is a radical ideology that it's not only about Israel, it's not only about the greater Middle East, it's about the world. There are two types of people in this ideology. There are those who ascribe to this ideology and those that they want to go to war with. And that is something that needs to be stopped dead in its tracks, not made peace agreements with. If you like this content overall, hit that subscribe button over there in the corner. We'd love to stay in touch. Take care.